All right, we're back with another episode of Before You Build, where we talk about problems that don't feel heavy yet, but then show up down the line.
Yeah.
Today, we're going to talk about what makes a project, a construction project, actually difficult. And so we've been talking internally a lot about how these problems aren't usually just one big thing in the field, but a lot of the times the difficulty is already set in motion before construction even starts. So I'm sitting down with Eddie. We're going to talk through what makes projects difficult, because after enough projects, I'm assuming you see a lot of the same patterns.
Yeah.
So let me start with a question here. First off, I should say, which I think it's known, but you're our director of construction for Manna
For
Construction.
Manna Construction,
Yep.
yes.
So you're intricately involved in all the projects.
All the projects, yeah.
Okay, so opening question. When you think about difficult projects, what usually causes them to become difficult? When you think about difficult projects, what usually causes them to become difficult?
So I want to say there's just a lot of factors that make a job difficult. Some of them are local jurisdictions. Some of them require, I want to say, some jurisdictions' interpretation of code is a little different than your interpretation. There's certain aspects that um, some inspectors come in already ready to just write a correction. And, we've ran into that issue just recently on one of our projects. And we don't understand why, right? We're trying to do everything per code. We're trying to make sure everything's done according to plan. And even with that, they still look for something that's a mistake, that's incorrect, or that they deem incorrect, which, we can always have that discussion and figure out what we can do to better accommodate that. Or, remedy the issue, or prove the inspector probably incorrect of the way he's reading the code. That's one factor. There's many others. When you're doing underground, when you're doing I want to say a new build, you run into those issues with unforeseens, right? You don't know what is under that ground. You have different areas that have been tested, but it's scattered around the area, and you just don't know what you're going to find. There's a lot of requirements, city requirements also, agricultural, that come into play that also hold us up from being able to build on a specific project, or there has to be a certain time frame when you can build. That has also been an implication on building. But no, I mean, a lot of the things also are subcontractors. Subcontractors sometimes cannot fulfill the duties that we require them to in a timely fashion. There's issues with, whether it's manpower, whether it's other projects that they're working on. It does become very difficult to make sure we have sufficient manpower to be able to keep our rapid pace project continuing forward and, get into that finish line. Those are some of the factors that we run into with difficulty of building. There's also different requirements in different states. They do it a little different, so there is more steps that are added to the project, which cause, that more time restraints, because now there's additional processes and additional inspections that need to be done. And these are factors that, we need to figure out ahead of time to make sure that we're accommodating for them. But yeah, like I said, there's always procurement is one of the big ones, making sure that we get all the materials, equipment that we're going to need ahead of time. So as we've dealt with in the past in a couple projects, a year lead time for switch gears, Um, that's gotten better, but we're still at a long lead time. So definitely making sure we acquire all the equipment we're going to need for the build out in a timely fashion, and doing some upfront purchasing before the project even starts to be able to have that in place so we can continue the build in a timely fashion. So those are some of the areas we struggle with when building. These are some of the areas that kind of hold us up. So yeah.
Yeah, and so so I think construction, a lot of it is about planning, prior to, before the construction starts, you're
Right.
planning, and a lot of these, issues that arise that make construction projects difficult or challenging, are expected, unexpected, curveballs.
Right.
And so how do you, like, with all of the experience that you have, how do you go into a project then with confidence, or what are you doing to try to, to prevent some of those things from happening? Or even if like you may have some unexpected things, like,
Yeah.
is there anything that like comes to mind on how you're adapting to those things versus like maybe when you first started?
Yes. So we have, now it's asking those questions up front, right? Here's an example in regards to what you don't see under the dirt. There are other developments that have happened in the area. So, hopefully the civil engineer that you're working with is kind of familiar with the area. He can provide some information in regards to that. You can kind of plan a little bit, maybe not the full extent, but you have an idea of what's down there. So you kind of accommodate for it by knowing that you're going to need heavier equipment, that you're going to need additional things to be able to excavate in that area. In regards to equipment, items that you're going to need ahead of time, now thinking of those at the beginning versus once you receive the project and moving forward. So stating that to the developers and letting them know, hey, you want to hit the ground running, this is the way you're going to be able to do it. Ordering ahead of time before the project even starts. That way you have what you need to be able to go move forward. The other thing is with subs, discussing with them specific timelines, also narrating the pace of the project helps. I wouldn't say it completely solves the issue, but it does help a lot. It gives them an idea of what to expect. Also, with the experience that you have, you can reflect, and they have some of that experience as well, building out restaurants, office spaces, whatever it may be. But they can also understand, hey, we're going to need them probably 5 guys for the first 3 weeks, and then they can kind of branch off and reduce their manpower to be able to stay ahead of the game and make sure they don't fall behind. So there's different things that can be adapted, right? We can adapt to kind of their schedule as well to try to work with them, which is what we always try to do for that same reason, because we understand there is not just us, but we also need to, what we're focused on is our projects. So we try to give them as much notice, try to give them as much time to coordinate their schedules to make sure that they can fit us in and they have ample people to do the project. So there's a lot of factors that we've kind of reorientated our thought process to kind of think of what we used to think of when we started the project, now thinking of it ahead before we even start the project.
Yeah, and so would it be fair, well, let me ask you just a straight up question. So do you feel like most project problems actually start before the field work begins, or is it during?
I mean, I have had both. I've had some projects that have started with issues. I think a lot of it is because the developer isn't fully aware of the steps or process that needs to go, that needs to happen for this to streamline and kind of run smooth. So there's a lot of hiccups and there's a lot of concerns. We run into some of those areas where the architect doesn't have the plans fully established. They're trying to get preliminary numbers and, well, they're trying to get numbers for the project, right? They're trying to get an estimate. The issue is there's not enough information to be able to provide an accurate estimate. So, yeah, do you inflate the number? Yes. That's how numbers come in at all different levels. And you can't compare apples to apples. The other thing is, it's like the relationship we develop with the developer. We get a lot of that upfront information that when the bid invite is sent out, some of the other GCs, they don't receive that. They don't get that information. So we're intimate with the project. And that gives us, I want to say, one, the upper hand, because we know the expectations of the developer or the landlord. And we try to incorporate that. Where that hurts us is the other GC that's bidding against us is probably not, doesn't have that, is not intimate with the project, doesn't know and is not aware. So all they're doing is bidding off the plans.
So they're coming in maybe lower.
Lower, right. Because they don't have some of those things that we've picked up and discussed with the ownership. So that doesn't, make us look as appealing. And that's where we try to.
But do you think, so like when you're thinking about problems and things that make it difficult,
Yeah.
like obviously you said that you've experienced both, and the stuff on the front end is like what you're mentioning, right? Like, maybe the developer not fully understanding the process around what, the early process as it relates to construction, and
Right.
the difficulty to get really clear information, and like, the type of RFIs that we're asking that's like super in the weeds, but actually really important, and like kind of like trying to move fast. And so trying to slow them down. And, so there's those upfront processes, and then there's, architects that may not be, as in tune with the site as you would think they would be. And then we're
Right.
uncovering stuff and we're asking questions. And so a lot of that to me is like before construction begins.
Right.
What about when you think about the problems that are happening that you mentioned that have happened during construction? Do you think that those problems are happening? Maybe talk to me about some of the things that are happening during construction.
So during construction, we run into some of those issues where reality is different than what the picture shows, right?
Mm-hmm.
It looks great on paper, and sometimes, it's drawn out in a way that seems like it's going to work. When you're out in the field, it doesn't. So those are some of the hiccups we run into. There's all kinds. So
What's an example of that?
So for example, one of the things was, we're dealing with this right now. An opening that we need to do that's has some structural features that are protruding into the dining room is one of the issues that we have right now. So one of the questions is, is this supposed to be furred out? Is this not supposed to be furred out? How do they want it to look? So it's asking those questions, during the process to make sure we can continue our schedule and also provide what they want, if they want something additional to cover up that structural member, to cover up some of those, I want to say, eyesores that they might see in the dining room.
And that wasn't on the plans?
That wasn't on the plans. Mm-hmm. It was something that they anticipated. The plans showed it covered up, nice, clean elevation with drywall paint, and, nothing sticking out. Now you have, a steel beam running horizontal with bolts that are going through it that are now sticking into your dining room that you can see.
And how often is something like that happening?
To be honest with you, it happens quite a bit.
Like every project?
I'd say 50-50.
And how would you, like, what's that, like, what would you define that that problem as?
I would just something that wasn't done, I want to say ahead of time, wasn't reviewed ahead of time. When they do a site, I want to say when the architect or consultants for the developer or for the landlord or for the tenant that's going in there does their site survey, some of those things just aren't picked up, those details that, I feel they should be picked up, but unfortunately they're just an oversight and something that we bring up in the field to make sure that we're doing it per what the client wants. So we're always taking those things into consideration, making sure that, we're providing a good end product for them.
And do you think so that would be an example of a problem that's happening in construction isn't really a problem of construction,
right?
It's a planning problem, or it's a planning problem.
Yeah.
So, and would you say, so would you say that's the majority of the issues that you're facing?
I mean, there's a lot of those issues that come up. There's a lot of, I want to say it's just, especially I want to say on remodels, we're remodeling a building now, a lot more issues come up because of the way things were done originally. But yeah, I want to say a lot of it is planning, doing internal investigations, verifying that things are not what we think they are, it's how they were actually built and how do we address that. So unfortunately, it's like I said, some of those things are missed, and that's where we have, I want to say, time delays. They delay our schedule because we have to now add to the scope that we had originally. Owner provided, here's another one, owner provided equipment and materials. It's fine. We don't have an issue when our client wants to provide those materials. The only issue we run into is receiving them in a timely fashion. So as of right now, we haven't received some of our equipment that we need to be able to close up our walls, do some of those important inspections to be able to keep moving forward. Some jurisdictions are very helpful, some are not. So if the inspector comes in and decides, hey, you know what, you're not there yet, and says, call me back when you're done, and we try to do a partial, not all of them are open to it. They don't want to do a partial inspection. They want to do a full inspection. So they'll hold us up until we're to that point, and then they'll go ahead and sign off once they inspect it and it's fully done, then they'll sign off. So that can really delay a project also. So those are that's another issue we run into in construction with owner supplied equipment.
So with thinking of all those different scenarios, and I'm sure there's many more, what's the tip or the wisdom? I mean, obviously we kind of said we making this before your build.
Yeah.
To specifically call out the, take your time.
Right.
Make sure you do your due diligence, plan. That's going to solve a lot of your problems.
Yeah. The big one is communication. Communication is key, right? It's allowing, so one of the things I emphasize on with all our project managers and our superintendents is provide dates of when you need those items. Don't give them, hey, when is it coming? When's it coming? When's it coming? Give them an exact date. I need it by this date to be able to install it, get it ready, and ready for inspection.
How do you communicate? What about with a developer that's trying to move really, really fast, but you're we need to slow down?
Yeah. So one of the things that, this is what we're doing with all our clients. We're having weekly meetings in regards to the progress of the project. With that, there's a running list that continues to go and is specifying, hey, this. If we don't have this, if we don't have our panels, if we don't have our grout, tile, walk-in coolers by this date, then, the project's going to get delayed. So we continue to ask, right? Some people might think we're kind of continually poking the bear, you could say, but it's just trying to help them make sure that they get the project done on schedule. We're pushing that issue. We're concerned of not just the equipment that we're receiving to install, but also we ask questions like, for example, CO2. Has CO2 already started their permitting process? Because we know how long that takes.
Right.
And, other GCs don't focus on that. They just, hey, when's CO2? I need CO2 by this date, and that's it. But, we try to set little reminders to the developers to remind them, hey, we still need this permit still needs to happen. When is that?
So it's just communication.
It is.
And when you know the full spectrum of the project and what to anticipate, even though you anticipate some unexpected, curveballs, you can help shape those early conversations so you hit less of those during actual construction.
Right.
Okay, I have some other questions. A couple more. All right, I want to talk about delayed decisions.
Okay.
How much do delayed decisions impact the field once construction starts?
I mean, a delayed decision can affect it dramatically. It could be something that holds you, you can easily go from a 1-day delay to a week delay. The problem is a domino effect. You delay on one thing. Yes, you delayed on that answer or on responding to the question or giving us the answer. That doesn't allow us to keep moving forward. So that delays the next step, which is, let's say, for example, you're paving, right? It was supposed to be the next step. You need to figure out what conduiting needs to go where for their signage or anything like that. So that delays your paving. Unfortunately, your paver isn't available the next day. He's available the following within 2 weeks after that next, next pour date. So the schedule is a big deal, and that's where not getting an answer can really delay a project.
Do you know why I asked that question?
Why?
No, I'm curious. Like, why would I put that in there? Honestly, Do you think that, like, to me, one of the things that comes up in the middle of in the context of the construction process in general is like waiting for people to answer.
Yeah.
And it can throw the project.
It is. We have a project now that we continuously ask for information, and you're
handcuffed.
We're not getting answers.
So it doesn't matter how good you plan.
Nope.
It just, okay. We're in agreement.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. It feels like eventually the field has to absorb every unresolved decision. Do you think that's true?
I don't think every, but I do think several.
Okay, like what?
There's decisions that we have to make on the fly sometimes due to the circumstances that we run into out in the field. Here's an example, right? We were supposed to put in a clean out in the wall per the plans. That's what it reflected. We weren't able to. So the reason why was because there's additional saw cutting, there's additional things that would be needed to incorporate that into the wall. Something that they didn't anticipate, and that was just because of the drawings and because of the existing conditions. So that modification has to be made. So yes, we send out an RFI requesting information. We didn't receive a response quick enough. So
delayed.
Yeah. So we we then incorporated it in there because we were getting our final inspection for our underground plumbing. And we wanted to make sure we had time to close, I want to say, pour the concrete for our slab, because they were about to put in the storefront into the building, which
And
would.
why were you willing to do that without an answer?
It's not a huge change to the plans. It's not something that, for example, I'm not eliminating it. All I'm doing it is relocating that in a location that I think is still discreet. So I'm paying attention to everything they might see.
And with a trustworthy relationship,
Yeah.
where you can lean on your contractor, and it's a mutual relationship.
Right.
It's not like I'm building this, I'm in charge.
Correct.
It's a mutual partnership. There can be those types of decisions that are made that are actually very, very much a construction decision that would benefit the company that is building.
Right. And, it's not delaying our client. It's continuing that. We're still involving them. We're still communicating with them.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll communicate that. Hey, this is the way we went. This is a decision we made just because of the situation we were in. Mm-hmm. We needed to get that inspection, and this was the only way it was going to happen in a timely fashion. 90%, I want to say, agree. And sometimes there's that 10% that don't. Mm-hmm. But, we're trying to do the best we can for our client to make sure that we get it, like I said, done in a timely fashion. Mm-hmm. So we want to complete the project and complete it to the best, to their standards. Mm-hmm. And we just want to make sure that they're in the know.
So you would say, I guess what I was trying to say is, like, every decision that's made, especially if it's unresolved, there is an aspect to that, like the people in the field or us as a contractor, we absorb that, whether we're having to make the call ourselves or we're having to go back, like, we are the ones who are seeing it.
Right.
Which I think is interesting when you think about what makes a project more difficult, because if the feedback loop is really quick and there's fast communication, there's not delays there's good, thorough planning, a lot of those things can make it smoother. Yep, exactly. Which is anticipating this next question. And I wanted to make sure I get to it before we run out of time, which is what do smoother projects usually have in common?
Smoother projects have several things in common, I want to say. We definitely have more information, more detail up front from the plans being more accurate, more detailed, and more specific. We also have time to, I want to say, prepare. There's an allotted time before the project even starts, saying, hey, you have the contract, you're ready to go. We're able to contract out, we're able to prepare all the subs, they're able to order materials, so all that up front really helps smooth out the process.
Can I ask this a question?
Sure.
When is the ideal time for you to know about a project?
So ideally, us knowing when we have the project, if we can know, a month is great before the project actually commences.
You're talking contract signed.
Contract signed.
Ooh,
contract
that'd
signed.
be nice.
That would be fantastic. But unfortunately, it's usually within a week to.
Yeah. You don't have to say it out loud.
Which is fine. It's one of those things we have to adapt to, and we do also.
Sure, but the point is like, give me some time. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. So that's kind of where.
So you said, detailed plans.
Yep. Detailed plans. Time.
Before construction starts.
Yes.
So that you were saying.
Yeah.
Get the subs contracted, get the
materials ordered.
the materials, and that's where I cut you off. Go ahead.
And then it's really making sure, ideally, it's like one of the big things we do is try to establish those relationships with our subs. Establishing those relationships with subs helps the process move smoother also. You can call on them. You can, lean on them.
And that's because we're in 11 states.
Right.
So it's not like we're just
here
in San Diego.
One area.
Yeah.
Yep. Definitely. And that way they're willing to work with you. They know how you work, they know how you operate, and they'll react when you need them to. So that is one of the big ones to help move the process forward quickly. Having good superintendents is always a big one too. Making sure that they're aware of the process, how everything goes in that specific state that you're working in that jurisdiction that you're working in, and any relationship with the local jurisdiction, the inspectors, all that is a huge win also, because they trust you, they know you, they know how you worked in the past. So there's history. That provides a lot of assurance to them, allowing you to do those partial inspections, allowing you to do some of those little odd inspections. So those help streamline, like we just discussed, quick communication, answers quickly for the questions that you have that come up in the field, and any owner supplied equipment or materials.
Man, I want to talk about construction managers,
Okay.
but not today. Remind me
Yeah.
of that.
Yeah,
Okay. You think we could do 2 questions in 5 minutes, or should we try to do 1?
Let's do one.
Okay, I'm going to ask you both questions. You tell me which one you want to answer,
Sure.
or you think is cooler.
Okay.
The first one is, how often do construction challenges actually come from the operation not being fully understood early enough? Which I feel like maybe we answered that.
Yeah, I think we did.
What's your quick answer?
Oof.
I'm talking about layouts, kitchen flow, utilities,
Yeah.
maintenance access, long-term use of building.
I mean, that to me is just those. There's no quick answer for that. That's the problem.
It's just how often do construction challenges actually come from those things?
They come off. I want to say they come often.
Yeah. But nothing that we haven't said.
Right. Nothing that I haven't already
And
mentioned.
it's a bummer when you see someone get into a space that is going to struggle because of a layout decision or a kitchen flow decision or a space.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, as I mentioned it before, every step counts, right?
Yeah.
And when you're operating, all your people that are in that operation, every step counts.
Yes. Okay. Final question.
Go for it.
After enough projects, what do you think people underestimate most about construction?
I think people underestimate the time that things take. There's a lot of processes that have to happen for one thing to take place. And unfortunately, it's like they don't see those ins and outs, and that's why it's not, I want to say, they can't justify that time frame, right? And for us, we have to always pick up that time here or there. And that's where it's very difficult when you project a schedule and you're following that schedule, and then something happens where you have to jump and kind of do it in a different orientation. Do something else first, go back to that, what you kind of stopped on, and finish that later. A lot of people don't see that. They see, hey, you're not on schedule because you're behind on this. And it's like, yes, we are delayed on that, but we're ahead on everything, on these other items, which still give us the ability to finish on time.
Mm-hmm.
So I always say there's A to Z, and all the in between is how we manage and maneuver and have that flexibility of that time frame for, how long certain things take. And sometimes unforeseen delays could affect, the not everything falls in line or in alphabetical order, so you have to accommodate. But that's
so time. How long? Your number, the thing that you think is underestimated the most about construction is how long things take. Yeah, I agree. I think that's a good, really good one actually. All right, so In closing, I think one thing we've learned over time is that good construction isn't just about solving problems in the field,
Right.
which is why we're having this conversation.
Correct.
And I think that it's something that we are now very in tune with and prioritizing. Early conversations before construction starts, in the details, let's get this set up really well. Let's give the time that's necessary to succeed. A lot of it is about preventing avoidable problems before the field ever sees them.
Yep.
Obviously, there is going to be a level of unexpected things that happen in the field.
Correct.
But with the right relationship and strong communication and quick communication, which I guess is what strong communication is,
Yeah.
you can overcome a lot of those things.
Yeah.
That's really the heart of how we think about projects in Manna Construction, especially in restaurant and retail environments where the building has to support the business long after opening day.
Exactly.
Solid. All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you.